Hello and welcome to the Rabyd Atheist. I'm your host Ed Rabyd, former pastor turned atheist, now compassionate anti-theist. Welcome to my channel. Feel free to like or dislike the video as you see fit, so feel free to hit those buttons. Feel free to comment below, and I would appreciate it if you would subscribe to the channel and hit your notification bell for more content as it is released. You're also free to share my videos as much as you like, because the purpose of this channel is educational in regards to atheist and deconversion issues and any other issues that are related to those issues. Today is the Sunday, September 3rd, 2023 edition of Sundays with the Rabyd Atheist. And today I'm going to do a little bit of follow-up to one of my posts this last week on the moral argument for the existence of God. I want to also talk about my new format for Sundays with the Rabyd Atheist. And then I also want to address some comments, and I also want to do a few more announcements at the end. So this is kind of a hodgepodge episode, but I think some of you will be interested in some of the content one way or the other. Now, firstly, I did my video on the moral argument for the existence of God and why I don't think it's very convincing. Got a lot of comments. The follow-up I would give, and this is the real problem with the moral argument, and I probably didn't state this as clearly as I could have, because everybody that was a theist quickly ran to the idea, well, how do you have this without objective morals? And how, it doesn't matter whether there's objective morals or not. It doesn't matter how that mechanism of having objective morals is achieved in the natural ability. Your problem with the moral argument is the very first premise. If there is no God, there is no objective morality. Now, here's the problem with that statement. And before you even get into a discussion of what morality is, even before you get into discussion of subjective or objective reality or morality or whatever it is, you need to understand you haven't defined who this God is, because that God's nature, his character, all the things about him or her or whatever are going to reflect on whether or not you can actually make a connection between that God and objective morality. Okay? You can sit here and argue what objective morality is. You can sit there and why certain things are necessary for it. You can argue that until you're blue in the face, until you define me who this God is and how that God's character and the way he does things leads to an objective morality in all of humankind. Until you've connected the dots, the two dots you've drawn there in that first premise, until you've shown me that this is just not a statement that you are taking as fact without actually showing me how causality works between God and objective morality, it doesn't matter. And I think, this really got drove home when I took, because that premise is a negative, a double negative. It's like a negative phrase of, if there is no God, that's a negative, there is no objective morality. Okay, so you can flip that over. If there is objective morality, then there is a God. Okay, there's objective morality, therefore there is a God. I can flip that and make it the same argument. Now, here's the problem. I got to know what God is in that premise to know what it is in the conclusion. Otherwise, some other God could actually be connected to objective reality. You can't do like God 1 and then God 2 in the conclusion. You have to have the same definition for both. And you don't have that. Okay, we don't have a definition of what God is. And we don't have a clear step-by-step how such a God existing leads to objective morality. So your first premise is dead. It doesn't matter whether there's objective morality or not, or what its basis is, or whether it's subjective or objective. If you haven't told me who this God is and proved the connection, if you haven't proved the truth value of premise 1, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. Okay? Because at that point I can treat that premise as false, the argument fails. Okay? This whole discussion of subjective, objective morality is irrelevant to me. Because the real killer for me was, who is this God we're talking about? What proof do we have of his existence? Which kind of begs the question, right? Kind of sends us around in a circle, because you're assuming the existence of God to prove the existence of God. I know that's why you put it in a negative, okay? Because then you can, but you can flip that argument around and get rid of the negations, and all of a sudden you have the same argument. So, I'm not sorry. That one fails due to logical reasons, and I don't think you can prove the truth of the first premise, and you certainly haven't given it submission, significant cost. And there's a good reason for that. Okay, there's a good reason theists avoid doing that. Because in order to get from God to objective morality, there's probably going to have to be 4 or 5 premises in between that. Okay? To get to that line, you're going to have a lot of other premises that prove that one before you can move on. And as everybody knows, the more premises you put in an argument, the more easy it is for the argument to be falsified. Because if you can prove any one of those faults at any point, bam, argument fails. So you want to keep your arguments as short and concise as possible and keep them as logical as possible, because then there's less of a chance of being proven false. So, usually most arguments for God are really short for that very reason, because they know that once you start defining things a little bit more clear, it gets even worse. Okay, and so keeping it in ambiguity just really kind of makes it interesting. So I want to follow up on that, because a lot of people were coming after me about, how do you get objective morality without a God? And I'm like, I don't know. How do you get objective morality with one? Okay, you haven't really proven that point. You're the ones arguing for the existence of God. Prove your point. I don't have to prove crap. I just have to say that that's unconvincing. And to me, it's unconvincing. It used to convince me, but not anymore. Okay, not anymore. I want to talk about the new format. Recently, we picked up a copy of an old book, God, the Most Unpleasant Character in All Fiction, got delivered to me yesterday. In one of my moves, I lost my original paperback copy, and I said, you know what? As much as I owe Dan Barker for my deconversion story, which, if you're following along with that every Friday, I probably should make him some more money. So I bought another copy of this book. And this is kind of my inspiration of where I'm going with this Sundays with the Rabyd Atheist. I've wrestled with this because I thought, well, maybe I can do an atheist sermon read out of a text out of the Bible, and we can dissect each passage and do the exact opposite of what I used to do to preach every Sunday. And I also thought, well, I used to do a Sunday school format, and that might work too. And so I'm kind of combining the two. I don't know if I'm going to give you 3 points in a poem, just like I used to sermonize, but I think what I can do is take a passage of Scripture, break it down, and ask the hard questions of, do we believe this is true? Can this even be true? What is the morality of God in this situation? Is he really a good character? And I think I know my bias on it, but maybe some of you can convince me that I'm wrong. I was a real apologist once upon a time, so I've already looked at all the passages, in a very positive light, trying to put a positive spin on it. So now I'm just going to be real about it. So I think starting next week, I'm going to pick a passage right out of the old Bible, and I'm going to dissect it, and I'm going to tell you what's wrong with it, and I may even tell you what's right with it, or what I agree with and what I don't, depending on the nature of the passage. But I'll bounce around a little bit. I don't want to just start in Genesis and move forward. There's a lot of people that have done that already. I'd rather maybe look at a theme, like, maybe 5 instances where God really proved himself to be a jerk and evil. I think that might be a good start. Just to kind of, go after the God of the Bible a little bit and use my expertise. So, kind of, maybe give some direction in another direction. So that'll be fun. I think that'll be fun. Some of you said, yeah, oh, yay, Sunday school. And I'm like, yeah, why not? Why not Sunday school or a sermon, preached by an atheist or something to that effect? So I'm definitely heading that direction with Sundays with the Rabyd Atheist. So make sure you stay tuned for that. I appreciate everybody's support on this, because I've been kind of trying to figure out what to do with this. And I said, the Bible could give me a wealth of material that I could open up that thing and have fun with that thing all day long. I've usually kept away from the Bible because of my deconversion. It brings, for the last few years, I open it up and it just brings back a lot of bad memories most of the time. Passages I've preached 100 times just don't have the same meaning to me anymore. So that's kind of where I'm headed with that. Also wanted to more directly address a couple of comments that I've had over the last couple of weeks from theists of other nature. I just got one from a person who wished that he or she hoped that I find my way back to the Lord soon, because the Lord loves his children and he wants all his children back. My response to that is, well, here's the problem. God says he wants everybody to be saved. Everybody's obviously not saved. So does he really love all his children? A Calvinist would say no. Or if they're an honest Calvinist would say no. I mean, and that's my problem with that kind of comment. Listen, I get the spirit it's offered in, and so I appreciate, somebody used to say stuff like that from a point of compassion, and I wasn't trying to be annoying. I wasn't trying to be a jerk. I just genuinely felt a person needed to come back to God. And so I get the spirit behind that comment, so I'm not condemning you for that. What I am saying is there's no Lord to come back to because he doesn't exist. I know you don't accept that, and a lot of you don't accept that, but I've learned to accept it. People ask me how far of an atheist I am. Well, on Dawkins' scale, I'm a 6.9 because A, it's funny, and B, it's about as close as I can get without being a 7. 69, always funny. I was born in 1969. Can you imagine the fun I have now as an atheist when I pull up my ID for stuff and tell people the year I'm born? I have a lot of fun with that. So there's that. A couple weeks ago, I did get that comment from a Calvinist, basically saying that I was never saved to begin with, that I just went from one falsehood, Pentecostalism, and being a Congregationalist, to preaching another falsehood. The fact that I'm not a Calvinist apparently is the issue. Okay, the only people that are truly of the faith are the Calvinists. And I've always found that very, very entertaining, because as an atheist, I'm always accused of being arrogant for not believing in God. And here you have a person that believes in God and arrogantly presupposes that only his version of God can be correct. And everybody else is just preaching falsehood. They were never really saved in the first place. I know there's a lot of theists in the room that would disagree with that too, but it's like, dude, I don't have time for that. Okay, and I went to look him up. I guess he doesn't have an account anymore. If he does, I haven't seen it. But it happens a lot, and that's kind of some of the things with comments. Over the years, I've gotten a lot of comments from trolls, and they come in, they fire off a few shots, disappear, and then I go to track them down, and they no longer exist. And so I've kind of, in dealing with comments, I've now really developed a very stoic attitude about it. I'm going to get to a point in this channel where I can't address every comment. It's just going to be a physical impossibility. I'm just not going to have the time. And so, that's kind of why I'm, kind of having a different attitude about it. If you're a dick once, I'll warn you. If you're a dick twice, you're off. I'm not going to let you comment. Be nice. That's everybody, by the way. Don't be a dick. It's okay to be passionate about what you believe, whether you're a theist or an atheist on this channel. In the comment section, just make sure you're being polite. And I have to applaud some of the theists that have commented on the moral argument. They were very polite. They just asked me to consider some things. And I appreciate those kind of conversations. I just don't appreciate the name calling anymore. I mean, I've stopped following a couple atheist channels because they've become nothing but name calling channels of certain people they disagree with politically or religiously, and now they're idiots. Well, if you've deconverted, you were an idiot once upon a time, so you need to kind of stay humble and remember that, okay? And that's one of the things I really try to do, is stay humble about it. So I listen to your comments. I don't see everything anymore. I try to, but I don't. Let's see, there's any other comments that I thought were entertaining. I got some comments about how hard it must be for me to do my deconversion story, and talk about those things. And the revelation that I might be autistic has made it actually easier to talk about it in certain ways, because I have a hard time opening up about my emotions. I said at another point, I think on my other channel, Simple Life Philosophy, I said I'm the world champion of masking. If you know what autistic masking is, like I had a friend when I was working as a teacher, just down the hall from me, and we were friends for the first year. We were both new teachers, and we were both, trying to struggle to survive in the first year of full classes after COVID. And one day we were talking about, different people, and he was talking about different people, what his read on them is. He's psychologically trained. He has a degree in psychology, and he wanted to be a psychology teacher, although he ended up resigning before I did. Um, and one day he made this statement to me. He said, "I really have a hard time with you, Ed. You're really hard to read." He says, I can't really seem to get a grip on what your emotions actually are." And now that I kind of get it with the autism thing, um, people ask me how tough it is to relate my emotions. Oh, it's always tough. I'm getting better at it. I'm getting better at it. And that's thanks to therapy. So I always encourage therapy on this channel. If you're having trouble deconverting, it's not that you can't make gradual, continual process by yourself, but every time I talk with my therapist, I take that little leap, where I can skip a few things and take that little leap. So, keep that in mind when you're considering that. But yeah, it is hard for me to talk about. And the next one coming up, I'm going to talk about a very deep emotional issue, and I may break down on that one. That one I might cry on. I don't know. I don't know. I might become the world champion of masking on that one. But the announcements. Yes, this week the argument that I'll be dealing with is an argument that claims to prove that the KJV, the King James Bible, is the inspired Word of God, the inspired English translation, based on a Bible code or numbers. So I'm kind of throwing in Bible codes and all this other crap into that. And yes, I'm already telling you kind of how I feel about it, because I never felt that these were legit when I was a Christian, so an atheist. So I feel even more dissatisfied about them now. But I've never, I'm watching this video that a guy recommended on the channel. Thanks for the recommendation, because it's kind of giving me some clarity. I got in 10 minutes and I had to turn it off because I felt like my IQ points were being drained out of my head. Just numerology, that kind of crap. And it's like, never mind. I'll save that for the video. Save that for the video. Also coming up this week will be part 4 of my deconversion story, the 2023 edition, where I'm trying to help the apologists. And I'll be talking about the one significant thing in my life, I think, that kept me in the faith so long. And it's an emotional event. And that's what kept me in the faith so long. If it had been about intellectual, if it had been about my studies, I would have been out a lot sooner. I would have probably been off to Ferris to get some degree in engineering or something back when I was in my 20s. Probably would have drove my ex-wife nuts, the fact that I was getting more schooling. But, I would have still had my math and science skills and so intact, and I might have jumped into that instead. And oh boy. But, yeah. So, it's just... there's certain events in your life that kind of pull you hard a certain direction. I'm going to talk about some of the 2.5 years of depression that followed that event that kind of nearly pulled me to the brink in a lot of ways. So there's that. So that's coming up this week on Friday. And of course, we're going to be changing Sundays with the Rabyd Atheist. We'll talk about some biblical passage, and we'll have some fun with it. And I'll talk about that on Sunday. So that's kind of it. That's the announcements. Thank you all. I've got to do one last thing. I've got to thank everybody. We are getting incredibly close to having 1,000 subscribers. I think last count I looked just before starting to record this video, I have like 21 more subscribers to go. The issue is the watch hours, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again. It's because the channel was dormant for so long. When I started back up on this channel, it was like barely above 1,500 watch hours. Okay, and you need 3,000 just to have membership and 4,000 to, get ads. But that, now I'm at like 2615, which I've grown 1,100 watch hours in the short amount of time I've been back on. So it's inevitable. It's going to happen. It's just I would like it to, I'd like to get the memberships up and running, because that's a good way to support your channel, especially if you continue to grow with subscribers. So we're getting very, very close, and I owe that all to you. Um, it's been this is different than when I first started the channel. I'm getting a lot of joy for the first time out of looking at the Bible again and looking at theology again and talking about it. I used to love doing that when I was a theist. And after I became an atheist, it's just, why would I want to do that? That's stupid. But I realize now that a lot of you Christians out there, you theists out there, I believe you're struggling, and I'm going to push you over the edge. I've told you before when I did my video on 5 reasons to do this channel, that if you're a theist, I'm here to push you over the edge so you leave. And so taking the knowledge that I have of Christianity, taking the knowledge I have of the Bible, taking the knowledge I have of Christian theology, yeah, I'm enjoying myself again. Like I didn't really enjoy myself as much about that stuff when I started the channel. I just did it because I needed to do it. But I'm having some enjoyment and some fun with it this time. Even my deconversion story is a little bit fun, and I think it's, now that I run with the theory that I'm slightly on the autistic scale, it allows me to cope with my hypersensitivity better because now I have a name for it, and it allows me to cope with all the other stuff that autism brings, the masking and not being able to share your emotions and things like that. Just has gotten so much better. And it's kind of translated into enjoying this channel a lot more. I thought I was coming back just for the money, but it's like the more I've been doing this, it's been a lot of fun. I miss simple life philosophy. I miss talking about stoicism, but it'll come up from time to time on this channel too. So thank you very much. You guys have been great supporters. I know some of you Christians wrestle with, do I pull away my subscription so he doesn't get to start making money doing this? It's going to happen. Okay, it's going to happen. You might as well just hit the subscribe button and make me that. If a Christian was my 1,000th subscriber, that would be a subtle irony, I suppose. But yeah, so thank you very much. Well, once again, thank you for every like, share, subscribe. Do the things that YouTubers do. You guys are great. I'm just so pleased with how the channel's going right now. We're so very close, and just keep doing what you do. Remember you only get one go around, so make it a good one to live your best and most happy life. And, always try to do the right thing because it's the right thing, not because some supreme being told you to do it. Thank you once again for stopping by. I appreciate every single one of you, and I'll see you again next time.